All right, we've been talking about skills and skills-based architectures and skills and learning for a long time, but how do you make sure that this actually works? How do you make sure that it pays off? We're going to explore that idea with Craig Friedman, Dana's former office mate, on this episode of the Learning Geeks podcast, starting now. Hello, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. How was that lead in? What were you guys like as office mates?
It was good. It was good. I mean, the whole ILS experience was great.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Was
so
fun.
I do have a quick story to tell. So Craig hated pennies. I don't know if he still does, but he used to take pennies and he would throw them in the trash. I would go to the trash and I would pull them out. And I just want to point out. I want to point out that I'm retired and Craig is still working.
There you go, everybody. That's this episode of the Learning Geeks podcast. The lesson
Save your
is
pennies.
Don't throw out your pennies. Exactly.
There was a reason behind the frustration. Is mostly the pennies were in the little receptacle in my car, and I actually once upon a time you actually had to like reach in and grab change to like pay tolls and stuff, and the pennies would get in the way, and I would get really frustrated with the pennies that I would collect in the thing, and so I just started tossing them so that they weren't in my way when I wanted to like hurry up and throw a quarter in.
Oh my gosh.
I
remember those days of the Illinois tollway, the basket, and like when I was a little kid, I'd beg my dad, let me throw in the coins, and
then you'd
do
miss
that until I missed, and then that was it. That was the last time.
I would try to see how fast I can go, throw it in.
It's scary to think that was it almost 30 years ago now, Dana?
It's crazy.
Hey, probably about that, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Well, hey, Dana, do you want to do a little bit more formal introduction of Craig?
Yes.
As formal as we get.
Yeah, as formal as we get. Yeah, well, part of the reason we have Craig on the podcast is because he's been in the learning industry and talent industry for 3 decades. He spent nearly a decade and a half with Deloitte, working with talent management. And then he spent nearly a decade with Accenture, which is close to all of our hearts. And then he wrote a book recently, and it's all about enterprise skills being unlocked, hence your intro. And Craig and I, we went to a 1-year program at Northwestern University. It was at the School of Education and Social Policy, and we actually did a couple of projects. I guess it was just one project together. You and Faith and I did that, the retail sim, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And Craig always impressed me as being a whole lot smarter than me. But when we'd get into a room with Roger Schenk would let us all know that we were not the smartest people in the room.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
So, Craig, we're glad to have you with us.
It was my pleasure.
All right. Jake, you want to kick us off? I think you've got an idea of what you want to ask Craig here.
Yeah, I do, Craig. So I did get your book, and I have not read it all the way through, but I'm as I was reading it, one thing that comes to mind, and again, as we talk about skills and organizations going skills first, it's a topic that I think we've heard a lot, and I'm sure even on our podcast, even though I should know exactly what we've talked about in the past, but I know I'm sure we've talked about that. I've had guests talk about this before, but so it made me think of this question for you. So I want to do a little bit of a scenario, and I'm going to be an 18-year-old, and you're going to be a career counselor. So I haven't gone to college yet, but I'm about ready to go. I keep hearing that the degree may not matter as much anymore because I'm still being told that companies and organizations are moving skills, and that's what they care about. So as my counselor, explain to me what this means in simple terms and what I should do to prepare while I'm at college, but at the same time, even beyond.
This feels like a beauty pageant question, I'm realizing. It's like...
Kind of is.
Yeah.
I think it's called North America because it's north
it's
in America.
North.
It's good.
Well, my youngest just graduated college, and so I would start with the please finish college and get that degree.
On the record.
So
yes.
so your parents' hard-earned dollars will have something tangible to show for it. So it's an interesting thing, I think. College degrees have a lot of value in society, in terms of being an entree into the middle class, or maybe even the upper middle class, depending on where you get your degree and stuff like that. The practical value of, can I actually do anything in my first company with it? That's getting further and further away, I think. Companies increasingly want to take responsibility for teaching you the skills that you will need to do your job. They turn over quickly. There's only a few careers these days where what you learn in college will last you your entire life in terms of professions. Certainly some of the sciences, law and medicine and, engineering sciences, those degrees will last you for a lifetime. But a lot of the other ones, there's so much churn with what's going on that, like, what you learned even 5-10 years ago may not matter. I have two older daughters now who are not, so one is 29 and one is 27, who are not remotely working in the field where they studied, right? I had a health and fitness major who now works for Sprout Social. It's a digital media platform, social media platform. And my linguistics major works for a local government nonprofit with nothing to do with linguistics. So I think the college degree is helpful because it helps build rigorous thinking, research skills in general, analytic skills in general. I think companies still value that. Those companies, there have been a lot of companies that have moved to skills-based recruiting. They will continue to move to skills-based recruiting. They struggle a little bit more, I think, with some of the pragmatics of it. I think in principle it's a really interesting idea, and there's definitely been some advances. But the challenge is that the colleges do a lot of weeding out for the companies. You're getting a certain kind of package of professionalism with the college degrees. You know that they've been through certain hoops and they've had to work in a certain sort of way in a certain sort of environment that is very friendly to corporations. And so to just do skills-based, potentially without a college degree, there's more assimilation that companies have to take on board. And so, they need to make sure that they want to do that investment.
So, Craig, why did you feel compelled to write a book? Because there's a lot of books about skills being skills-based, but what makes your book different, and why did you feel compelled to do that?
So I started getting it. So this whole idea of skills-based organizations in particular. I mean, obviously, we're all learning geeks here, so we've been doing skills in one way, shape, or form for a really long time. But this notion of skills-based organization, I started doing maybe 3-4 years ago. I started having clients ask us about it, and there was a lot of confusion in the marketplace about what was going on, the things I was reading about, the things I was listening to in various webinars, in various conferences, and of course all my clients. Just a lot of misconceptions. I started blogging about it, reflecting my thoughts, trying to clear up some confusions and misconceptions about it from my perspective. The blogging led to more conversations. The conversations led to some research. The research led to some benchmarking. The benchmarking led to a maturity model. Long story short, before you knew it, had enough material out there for a book, so we packaged it up and published the book about it, collecting sort of our collected wisdom from, at least 3 or 4 years working directly with clients on skills-based talent strategies.
So what were some of those misconceptions? What were like the biggest misconceptions that learning folks would have about how skills work?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I think the most obvious one is that this idea of skills-based organizations or skills-based talent is primarily about L&D, that it's primarily like an learning and development transformation of some kind, and it's much broader than that. It's a much bigger idea. It obviously has implications for learning groups. It will have lots of implications for them, but that's not what it's primarily about. It is a talent-wide, data-driven transformation. And that's sort of the main point when I'm talking to people and I'm saying, the way that I describe it is basically, for the past 30 or 40 years, all of our HR data has pretty much topped out at the sort of person level, the FTE, the headcount, right? We hire a person and we give them a job title and we give them a salary and some benefits, and we park them in a box on an org chart where they sit for many years until they can find a better box on the org chart to move into. Or maybe they get assigned to a project for a period of time, a temporary assignment. But anyway you slice it, it's all happening at that person level. So this whole skills-based thing is, like I said, it's a data-driven transformation, because what we're doing is we're bringing all of that down a level of granularity, right? And if you have comprehensive skills data about your organization, and what I mean by comprehensive is not just skills of your people and the learning courses, but skills tied to work tasks, skills tied to job descriptions, skills tied to workforce planning and recruiting strategies, linked in across the whole talent value chain. You can do a lot of things that you can't do without that data. That data can be leveraged to deliver more tailored, more flexible, more efficient, sometimes even more expansive talent strategies that you just can't do without that data. Right, and it shows up in a variety of different ways. It's not one big thing. It's sort of like a suite of talent strategies that are enabled once you can leverage that data. And one of the reasons for that is because skills data is kind of unique in the sense that, if you think about all of our business data, right, we've got sort of business data about our customers and our products, right, and then we've got our people data about our employees, our workers. But skills is an interesting piece of data because it kind of straddles those two groups. At an individual level, it tells me something about me as a person, but as an aggregate level, it tells me something about my business capability.
Right.
And so being able to leverage skills data kind of moves HR from a headcount management exercise to a capability management exercise, which is a giant step forward in better business alignment with our business partners.
So I want to piggyback on that capability piece, because one of my thoughts as you were sharing, when we talk about skills specifically, like how do you define skills? Because I think it comes across and people have different definitions of it specifically, mainly, and I'm asking this because sometimes you can break down skills into like small subsets of skills and very micro level based stuff. And then there's other people that maybe just want to talk about more on the capability level. Like, you are capable of doing X. I want to make sure I know that. I want to know what proficiency you are or what level you are. Like, how do you think of that, and how do you talk to that with the clients?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I talk about it as a data-driven transformation is because we know a lot about data-driven transformations, right? We've done data-driven transformations in other parts of the business. It's just a little bit new for HR groups. Ultimately, every company has to define the skills that they're going to use. What is in the box for a skill? What is out of the box for a skill? What level of granularity you're going to get to? One of the things we know from most data-driven transformations is to start with functional requirements, right? Is to go through all the users of the data and ask the question, what do you use this information for? What decisions or tasks are you going to perform with this data? What do you need it for? And skills are just one part of a broader ecosystem of data that's used to enable these strategies, right? So let me give you an example. I'm going to pick a really fun, simple skill like project management. If I'm trying to staff someone, like let's say in a talent marketplace, and I'm looking for someone with project management skills, project management is probably a perfectly fair level of granularity for me. I don't necessarily need to know your proficiency level. I don't need to necessarily know like whether you can perform an ETC calculation on when your task is going to be complete. Project management is probably fine, but I do need a lot of context, right? I need to know, what kind of a project manager are you? Have you, are you an IT project manager? Are you a marketing project manager? Are you a training project manager? Have you done big projects, or do you kind of do small projects? Or have you ever done one with Python? I really need a Python project manager, or someone who's done Agile. All this context is added to the skill definition in order for me to make my decision. Now, if I'm doing recruiting, again, project management is fine. I'm not going to the marketplace looking for probably anything more detailed than project manager, but I do care about the scope and scale of your project management experience. That helps me figure out how much I need to offer you from a compensation perspective. Right? I need to know if you're I manage teams of 5 for 6-month-long projects, or I'm the sort of person who, has 5-year-long multi-million-dollar implementing SAP in 150 countries kind of project manager. That tells me a lot about how I'm going to compensate you. So every group, if you go through the definition, will have skills and this metadata is what I call it, right? That you merge together. The skills are just the piece that everybody shares. It's just the project management definition that everybody across the whole enterprise is sharing. Now, what makes it challenging for learning geeks like us is the metadata that we, learning geeks, use to perform our job tasks just happens to be more detailed information about skills. Right? Like, we need sub-skills and micro-skills for all kinds of reasons. We need to know all the little modules that are in that project management course. We have 5-minute videos all over the place being fed in the flow of work at people that have to write that, but nobody else needs that. So if we create a skills taxonomy for ourselves, it's going to be massively over-engineered for the rest of the organization. They're going to drown trying to get down to that micro level. So one of the things we suggest when we're creating the skill definitions is work off the functional requirements, pick the level of data that is enterprise-wide specific. There's plenty of machine learning that can append the skill definitions to other metadata to get the job done. And by all means, the learning people need the information they need to do their job, but they don't need to burden the rest of the organization with the extra detail that they personally need to do their job. Yeah. And that helps create a more manageable sort of, learning people would get to like 8 layers of a skills taxonomy. The rest of the organization might be fine with 4,
Yeah. And that's great to hear, because I feel it's better to do that. Because again, I think we over-engineer as well as add too much instruction or break things down too much. I think that's just our natural tendency. But so that's great to hear. And what I'm liking about that is you're putting a heavy emphasis again on context. I think Dana is king for saying context is king. Or what did you say? Sorry, actually, you say context is. What's your saying?
Content
Maybe I'm messing
is king,
this up.
but context is the kingdom.
There you go.
That's Dana Allen Cock.
Yep. That's right. So this might be a strange question, Craig, but when an organization moves to be a skills-based organization, from the learning standpoint, how does that impact the course catalog that most companies have?
Well, so in theory, once you've got all the pieces connected, it should automate it quite a lot. So
what about the content, though? I mean, is there a difference in the content?
No, I mean, so what's inside the box doesn't change. Everything we know about creating high-quality learning experiences remains true. And nothing about this skills-based organization really deals with what's inside the box of the learning solution, the learning experience, right? Okay. We start with the tag that's on the outside of the box that says, in this here box, we're teaching project management. Yeah. Right? And then how we orchestrate all of those tags and organize them. But it does change curriculum management potentially because, again, if I have skills tagged to my job architecture, so I know every job, all the skills that are required for every job in the company. If somebody comes along and does an org redesign, today, when I was a learning manager in charge of a curriculum, oh my God, that's a massive redesign of my curriculum. All the different jobs are different. I've got to rethink my curriculum and what's in my manager training and what's in my supervisor training and what's in my finance training, because they changed all the job responsibilities. But in a skills-based world, the person doing the org redesign just reassigns what skills are associated with what job. And the system automatically creates the gap between that job and you, right? It knows your learning profile, what skills you have, what that job requires. By the way, that's true for any job in the organization, not just for the advancement, which is another benefit of this skills-based thing, right? Like, all of my curriculum paths are all about how do I have a career pathway, curriculum that marches you up the career ladder. If someone asked me as a training manager, can you plot a pathway from a procurement manager to, a finance director, my head would explode, right? And especially if I had to do that for every combination of 2 jobs. But the skills-based thing will do it automatically. It'll just download the skills associated with, your profile and any job that you want to pick on, and it'll add it to your plan, and it'll automatically do that. Same is true, by the way, for redesigning workflows or work processes. Right? Somebody wants to redesign the work. AI is coming. We're going to change all the work processes. We're going to upskill. Somebody's responsible for tagging the skills, and it automatically figures out what skills you're going to need for your new job. Again, no curriculum redesign in principle. we're still early in these transformations, but that's sort of the vision.
And with our friend Tessa Forshaw, who was on an episode or two ago, it also depends on when we release this, but her and her team have done a lot of work into learning transfer. And I think part of a lot of this data can really help you with reskilling efforts. If you're going through reskilling efforts with organizations, to say, hey, you were in job X and now maybe you're moving to job Y. I can actually look at that data now and see, based off of those skills that you currently have, which ones are more easily or can be easily transferable to this new context.
Yeah, for sure. And you can get a lot of data about adjacent skills, right? That things that
That's
are
the term I
close.
was looking for. Yeah.
So if I'm looking for someone who doesn't have the perfect match, but they have a near match, right? All of that, by the way, is dependent on some sort of skills validation, skills assessment program that you've got, which this is also going to be new for a lot of learning groups because it's going to be more expansive. Right. Up till now, we've been responsible for our courses and our content, and if we were doing assessment, some sort of exam or something based on our courses. But in the skills-based world, you might be learning skills through a gig in a talent marketplace that you've taken on, a temporary assignment. It should be ultimately connected to your performance reviews that you're learning on the job. You have the ability to tag skill. If you have a profile and you're an expert, I can find mentors in the system. They can mentor me. What have I learned from them? So it raises the issue of, okay, now that I have multiple pathways to acquire skills, how do I vet them against one another? Like, do I know you have project management skills if you finish the course and pass the test? Do I know it if you finished a gig that was 3 weeks long? Like, how do I cross-validate the different methods of acquiring skills and have a method for sort of giving you credit for the skill, right? And every company has to, no one's figured out the sort of secret sauce of exactly how that works. Companies are experimenting, but it is going to be a bigger set of responsibilities for learning groups once they get all these pieces in place, is to come up with mechanisms of cross-validating skills. But then, yes, you're right. Once you have that stuff in place, even more data analytics that you can do on it to see like what are the successful transfers, what are the challenging transfers, right?
Yeah. So put you on the spot. What would be your perspective then about how to validate effectively if companies haven't figured it out?
I mean, like I said, there's not like I had a client whose perspective was, so some companies take the approach that they have a preferred method. They push everything towards some sort of demonstration of proficiency, let's say, or maybe they have some sort of online simulation that you have to pass or something. So some places push everything. They sort of give you partial credit until you pass the certification experience, whatever that is. I had a client that ranked different methods in terms of confidence intervals. They basically said, like, if you finished a training course, I have 10% confidence that you have that skill. But if it was a simulation course, 20%. If you've done a gig in the talent marketplace, I'm 35% confident. But if you actually, your manager has attested to, like, I've seen him do this on the job in your performance review, that's 100%, right? Whatever it was, they had a confidence ranking, and it was built into the talent marketplace. So when you were looking for someone with certain skills, you would get the confidence rating of, yeah, he's got project management, but 55% confidence that it's a match. And so the algorithm would take in a confidence rating into, right? There's statistical methods that are out there too, sort of a preponderance of the evidence approach, right? The more avenues you've explored with project management, the more credit you get. So, on the job plus learning is better than learning alone, etc. Right? Like I said, we're still experimenting. We're trying to figure it out. It's a new space.
Where do you see clients getting it wrong, Craig, who are trying to implement skills?
So I'm a big believer in starting with a very strong business context and starting small and focused, right? So one of the things we advocate is go talk to your business leaders about business problems or challenges that they have where ready access to the right abundant skills of the right type in the right quantity is critical to them being able to achieve those goals, right? Pick that. and do that. Don't do an enterprise-wide housekeeping exercise where you just mine through all of your HR systems, you pluck out any reference to skills that you might find there, and just sort of do a housekeeping exercise in the abstract. That's a very painful way to do something like this. It provides much more clarity and focus if you have a specific business problem. So, like, I'll rattle off a few, from clients that we had that were very specific. Had a mining client that wanted to expand its copper mining operations, but the new copper mining required new engineering processes. They had to dig deeper to get to the copper, which is a different kind of mining and different skills. And there's generally a shortage of geotechnical engineers, so skills shortage, right? Work with a healthcare company. Their diabetes doctors are incredibly short supply. The population is aging, and America has a lot of overweight people, so more diabetes. But we're not graduating more, diabetes doctors. So, this particular health system had a 9-month backlog on trying to get an appointment with the docs, right? And so they're like, what kind of strategies can we use to stretch that out, find more in the marketplace, push skills down, to the advanced practice nurses, et cetera, everything we can do to try to get 9 months into 4 months, right? There's a lot of professional service companies, they staff based on billable hours. And so when they have someone who's, on the beach in between projects, that's like inventory, gathering expenses and dust in the warehouse. But the second you can move those people into billable work, they're generating revenue. So even a 10% more efficient staffing process literally improves revenue capture, right? It moves resources more quickly from cost to revenue. That's a very tangible benefit, right? So, like, go talk to people in the company, the frontline business leaders, find something where this is going to be helpful. The ability for us to manage our skills more effectively, find them, spread them out more effectively, would be a material benefit, right? Because number one, that'll provide a lot of focus. Number two, it's a much easier thing to create a piece of the skills taxonomy over here, and then another piece over there, and another piece and a third thing, and then figure out a way to make them talk to one another than it is to do these grand unified taxonomy exercises, which are, again, without the context, it's really tough. Plus, if you can demonstrate, actual benefits to frontline business leaders, that's a momentum building kind of quick win, right? So that's what we argue. Take the time, do the business cases, rank the business cases, figure out, where you think the best first step is, second step, third step, and then put some governance in place to figure out how you start connecting the various projects into an enterprise solution.
So if I'm rushing off to go talk with someone like a frontline worker or a business leader or whoever, should I be doing that myself with an L&D, or should I go find some folks, bring them along, and who would you think those people are?
I mean, it probably depends on how confident you are that you and or your L&D team can have those conversations with business leaders. That's going to depend a lot on the company, right? I mean, we all work for Accenture and big professional services firms. Most of the people, even learning people, are pretty business savvy. They talk to front-end people all the time about their business challenges. I wouldn't be too worried about, having a training director from one of those firms talk to the front-end business leaders. But not every training department is like that. Some of the training people are pretty far removed from what's going on in the business side, and they just don't have the context. In that case, you might want to bring in a consultant or someone who will sort of give you an objective assessment on your behalf. And so, they'll conduct some interviews, some focus groups, some surveys. They'll gather data. They'll analyze it for you and, sort of tee up here's the potential business cases, and we've sort of ranked them on a 2x2 matrix to give you some choices and blah, blah, blah.
So what else would you want people to know, Craig, if they're like on the fence of pushing that buy now button on Amazon with your book?
I mean, another thing to talk about, like you talked about potential mistakes, there's a lot of technology in the space right now. This is a big ecosystem. There's 80, 90 vendors in the space, and they all have different footprints of this. There's a lot of folks out there who I think, and understandably, aren't educated in all the technology that's out there, so they build something and they think that's going to solve all their problems, and it's not that kind of an exercise. This is a technology stack that you're going to want to strategize and build over time. You're going to have a lot of technology strategy decisions about what kind of systems, how they interface, what's the single source of truth, how do you harmonize data across various systems, how do they interface, what's your strategy going to be for sunsetting some and replacing them with another. Just a whole bunch of technology questions that go into that. It would be really helpful to have a savvy person helping you keep an eye out for the tech. I've had clients who are like, yeah, we bought Workday and we turned on the Skills Cloud, and then 2 months later they had 1 million skills because people just went in there and started typing in their chess hobbies and their afternoon stuff, and found 30 different ways to say works well with people, and it's a giant mess, right? It helps to have a strategy.
Yeah.
So definitely find we I know we've said this before, but definitely find some folks in technology. And again, kind of hearing the conversation, and we have talked about this a bit, the importance of developing cross-functional relationships and working more aligned versus very much in a silo. Because again, with these transformations, you're talking about the entire employee experience. That's not just from an L&D side. We have always owned the content. We've always owned these courses, these programs, that type of curriculum. But that, what you're talking about, Craig, is something much, much larger of if you're getting to gigs. So that might be talent specific related. Then there's, I've heard performance related, if you're dealing with your year-end performances. Then there's like the assessment side. And speaking on my behalf, a lot of our assessment skills, or at least the people that are really good at it, the experts, are sitting within our talent attraction team, like our recruiting team. So there is a definite need, and things I'm hearing in this conversation is why I think it's more and more important to start building some friends in some other places.
Think about this, right? Something as simple as your profile, your skills profile, right? When all the pieces of a skills-based organization are moving together, right? I would probably have some de facto skills on my profile that are the gap between whatever my current validation says are skills that I have and my next promotion, right? However, I can get skills added to my profile from a performance review. I can get skills added because I've decided I want to make a lateral move from procurement into finance, let's say, and I clicked on that and there's some interesting skills there, so that got added onto my thing. Somebody has staffed me on a project, and I have 90% of the skills that I need for that project, but there's a couple of extra ones that are needed, so the system throws some, the delta to get you sort of just-in-time project onboarding, but it throws some skills up on my learning plan that way. So think of all the different systems that are involved in putting skills just on your profile, right? And you start to realize, oh yeah, this is a whole ecosystem of different systems talking to one another, and it's going to take some time for us to work out all those processes and all those data management challenges.
Yeah, I love that.
So, Craig, what's the name of the book? How can we reach out to you on the internet? Yeah,
Enterprise Skills Unlocked. You can find it on Amazon. Just go in and type in Enterprise Skills Unlocked. Currently available in ebook and audiobook. We don't have a hard copy yet, but that's pending.
That's awesome. Do you read the audiobook, or did you get some amazing actor?
It's my voice.
Okay. Enough said.
It is interestingly enough, in the world of AI, I read the first 3 chapters and the AI did the rest.
That's amazing.
Oh, wow. Excellent. That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll peek behind the scenes.
And did it put the correct emphasis on the right syllable?
There is an editing process that someone had to go through. One of the most painful things is apparently I casually make use of slashes. You know what I mean? Job/role. The AI algorithm did not like job/role. And so somebody had to go in every time I did that in the book and correct it, one by one. It's a little painful, but God bless him for doing that.
The job role. It sounds like a new treat at Cinnabon.
The job role.
Yeah.
Right. That apparently in proper names, it struggles a little with proper names.
Available for a limited time, only on Halloween.
Amazing. Well, there's some bonus tips for us as learning professionals. Be careful with your AI narration and
slashes.
Yeah, and check out Craig's book on skills. Craig, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And if you have any more good old Dana stories when you're sharing an office, let me and Jake know. We'll load up on those. That's great.
They will load up on them, Craig.
Yeah.
There you go. I completely forgot about the pennies thing.
That's so great. So thanks again for being here. Jake and Dana, thanks as always. And to you, our listeners, thank you the most. We're glad you're here. Make sure that you like and subscribe and tell your friends about us. And
hey, Bob, you wouldn't happen to have a Star Wars podcast, would you?
You know, I was actually going to leave that out. I'm not even joking. I was going to leave out the fact right now.
Okay, well, you can leave it out.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We won't talk about Short for a Stormtrooper 50-minute Star Wars podcast, so you could also listen to. We will just say thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next episode of The Learning Geeks. That'll come very soon. See you then. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks.